to the police, but they just couldn't believe that he had actually stolen a bunch of money from ATMs around town. But when he was finally taken into custody, he was seen before a judge and was handed a 12-month sentence in order to pay back $200,000, which in his own words was going to be tough considering he was back bartending again. But how did Dan pull off this scheme for so long without the bank noticing? Using an ATM, he could transfer money between his accounts, which essentially was fictitious money. It was money that didn't actually exist. And in Dan's own words, he was transferring over millions of dollars, but the bank was saying transaction declined. However, despite this message, it still worked, even though Dan didn't have this money available in his accounts. So when the bank looked, they would see a balance of $1.2 million in credits, and they would honor the transaction. He began performing these transfers every day, and Dan had 2 bank cards, so he could withdraw $2,000 a day, but could easily walk into a branch and request $50,000 or whatever he needed in one go. Dan said he isn't an IT expert, so he isn't exactly sure how this was possible or how it was even handled afterwards. He turned himself into the bank before they even caught on to his scam, and as a result, the bank contacted the police, who then took an excessive amount of time to investigate, so long that the anxiety drove Dan to do a media tour, confessing to everything, which would eventually get him arrested. The judge and the prosecutor had no idea what he was actually doing and were rather shocked by the whole situation. And after pleading guilty, Dan was sentenced to 1 year in jail with 18 months community service.
Recently, I've been doing a ton of research on card skimmers, and I find the evolution of these devices to be quite interesting. Now, of course, we all know about your average card skimmer that can easily be detected through a little tug and squeeze on the card reader. However, that unfortunately will not work with these new card skimmers. They're called deep inserts for a reason, and they are designed to go inside of the card slot itself, making it borderline unlikely to ever be detected. The new ultra-thin design, which is only 0.68 millimeters thick, is made possible through the unbelievably thin LiPo battery and a flexible PCB. Now, these two things aren't all that high-tech, right? Batteries as thin as 0.4 millimeters are quite common and easy to find. And these days, most PCB manufacturers do offer flexible PCBs. Now, this skimmer itself copies cards' magnetic strip information, right? However, scammers will still need to capture the personal PIN, and they usually do this by placing a hidden camera somewhere on or around the ATM machine. In recent cases, scammers have been placing these inside of fake panels, which ultimately covers the entire side of the machine.